Warne explains why he noticed Sophie before 90-Day Hunt for Love came out. Even though Warne and Sophie Sierra are no longer together, he told In Touch in an exclusive that he wanted to let his ex know before he appeared on Season 1 of 90-Day Hunt for Love. At Us Weekly's 90-Day Hunt for Love celebration in New York City on Monday, May 19th, Rob exclusively told In Touch, "When I first heard about the experience, and I was first offered the opportunity to go, I told her pretty much immediately, just because I felt like if she could think I was trying to do something wrong, or if she could think that I was deliberately not telling her, or anything like that. Then, when it finally comes out or she figures that out, it might be worse for me." Rob claimed that telling her, "Hey, you're doing your thing," was the first thing he did after being cast on the show. "I'm going about my business. Just so, you know, I will be honest with you, I will have a season where you will have to witness me dating other people, but that is the reality." Rob went on to explain why he alerted Sophie about the show, saying that his ex had a tendency to be very vengeful sometimes. "I didn't want it to get any worse than it could. She might get upset about something and then decide to feel some type of way about it," Rob continued. "So he wanted to inform her in advance of any possible drama. She might get upset about something and then decide to feel some type of way about it," Rob continued. "So he wanted to inform her in advance of any possible drama. In order to give her time to adjust to the fact that she would have to watch me on TV with someone else," he added. "I gave her as much of a heads up as I could get." Rob noted that Sophie still has plenty of time to respond, adding that the new 90-Day Fiancé offshoot hasn't debuted yet. He continued by saying, "I hope she doesn't, come for me online every episode after every episode." Sophie frequented Instagram pages for cute mixed-race guys, which is how Rob and Sophie initially connected. Soon after connecting, they FaceTimed and ended up talking for 8 hours. Before the couple's wedding finally aired during the February 25th, 2024 episode of the series, their relationship had many ups and downs, including accusations of infidelity. But the drama didn't end there. On Season 8 of 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, they kept recording their relationship problems. On Season 2 of 90-Day, The Last Resort, Rob and Sophie made an effort to keep their marriage together, but they parted ways when he voiced his worries about it during the recommitment ceremony on the episode that aired on March 25th. "Dear younger Sophie, remember to stand up for yourself if people are mean to you, and remember you're perfect the way you are," Sophie said in a letter she read to her younger self at the start of the ceremony. "Stay true to who you are and never lose your brightness. Keep in mind that you are gorgeous and incredibly strong. I never made an effort to adapt for other people." Let's fast forward to adult Sophie. "You are more self-assured now, have friends at last, and even get married and have children," the UK native added. "Sophie has developed into a good, loving person who is deserving of affection and joy. You are content with your spouse, despite the fact that he is not your ideal partner." For a few years, Rob said that the ceremony was over when Sophie requested him to read his vows. He answered, "Well, I think that's pretty much it then." However, Sophie Sierra was sitting apprehensively on the couch of the apartment she now shared with Warne on a calm Thursday afternoon in Los Angeles. Golden lines appeared on the floor as sunlight streamed through the flimsy curtains. While preparing tea in the kitchen, Rob tried to appear unconcerned, but Sophie could tell he was nervous. It was today. Margaret, Sophie's mother, had traveled in from the UK to see her. They hadn't seen one another in almost a year, and a lot had changed in that time. In addition to moving to America, Sophie was at last prepared to tell her mother the truth about herself, something she had been hesitant to do for years. A few months after their engagement, she came out to Rob as bisexual. He had handled it better than she had anticipated. He had asked questions, listened, and most importantly, still loved her. However, her mother, well, that was another matter. Margaret Sierra was a conventional person. She cherished decorum, family, and appearances. Sophie had been silent for far too long because she was unsure of her reaction. Like a knife cutting through the silence, the doorbell rang. With a courteous smile, Rob opened it. "It's nice to see you, Mrs. Sierra." As always, Margaret stepped in with composure and elegance. She gave Sophie a firm hug. "Oh, sweetheart. It is a pleasure to see you. I've really missed you. Sipping tea and discussing the weather, flights, and Sophie's new life in California, they took up residence in the living room. Sophie, however, was distracted. Her thoughts were racing. About half an hour later, she looked at Rob. He nodded slightly, encouragingly. "Mom," Sophie said, her voice a little lower than she had anticipated, "I've been meaning to tell you something. It's crucial." Margaret's grin turned into a worried one. "What is it, sweetheart?" Sophie inhaled deeply. "I identify as bisexual." Silence fell. Rob ceased stirring his tea. Margaret blinked. "I see." Heart thumping, Sophie hurried forward. "It makes no difference to who I am. I remain the same. I adore Rob. However, I needed you to fully understand me. It has been tiring to hide it." Margaret clinked her teacup slightly and put it down. "Why now?" "Because I wish to lead an honest life. Because I must be completely myself around you if we are to have a genuine connection." Margaret spent a lot of time staring at her kid. Behind her eyes, Sophie could sense conflicting emotions, shock, possibly disappointment, and perplexity. However, her mother subsequently took an unexpected action. She grabbed Sophie's hand from across the table. Margaret whispered, "You are my daughter. I also adore you. Even if I might not grasp everything at first, I'm open to learning. Just don't ignore me." Sophie's eyes began to well up with tears. This was not what she had dared to dream for. Rob smiled reassuringly at her while he watched silently from the armchair. The three of them shared a meal and even shared a chuckle that evening. Though unpolished and occasionally embarrassing, Margaret's questions were honest. Sophie responded calmly, appreciative of each advance. It wasn't a flawless debut. However, it was truthful. It was authentic. And it marked the start of a more genuine life for Sophie. But Rob Warne gazed out their Los Angeles apartment window, where the wooden floor was covered in long shadows from the bright sunset. The storm that was building inside of him was not lessened by the pleasant light. Sophie Sierra was leaning on the kitchen counter behind him, her arms folded, her face hidden behind an unreadable mask. Hours before, Sophie had revealed something very intimate. She was coming out as bisexual. Rob thought it was a betrayal, even if it wasn't, because of the secrets she had been keeping, not because of what she said. Rob finally remarked, "I just don't get it," in a heavy, low voice. "What don't you get?" Sophie had a crisp, but not rude, British accent. Nothing had prepared her for the pain in Rob's eyes, even though she had practiced this exchange 100 times in her head. "You held off until now? After all that we've endured." Turning, Rob tried to speak evenly. "After we moved in together, after I introduced you to my family, after all the long nights of promising each other forever, you dropped this like a bomb?" Sophie's mouth clenched. "It's not a bomb, Rob. That's who I am." I was at a loss for words. I felt afraid. "I'm afraid you'd do just that. Make my honesty a danger to our relationship." Like a lion in a cage, Rob paced the living room. "So, are you still in love with me? Or am I only a part of your journey?" Her eyes grew wide with pain. "Don't limit myself to a stage. I cherish you. I've loved you forever. That remains unchanged by this," he said, "but it changes everything for me." Sophie took a step forward, her voice now softer. "Rob, you are safe, which isn't why I fell in love with you. You gave me the impression that I could be completely myself and still be loved, which is why I fell in love with you." Rob buried his face in his hands and fell onto the couch. "Then why does it feel like I'm losing you?" "You're not," she said softly as she knelt before him. "I'm not giving you less of myself, but more. This has nothing to do with wanting someone else. This is about putting all of my trust in you. Let's be honest, please. Real also implies vulnerability." He gazed into her eyes, which were genuine, wet, and bright. The barrier he had erected around his emotions started to crumble. "So you're not leaving?" Sophie responded, "No," in a steady voice. "Not unless you push me away." Between them, silence descended, with all of the unsaid anxieties and brittle hopes. Reaching out, Rob brushed a lock of hair away from her face. Then I guess I need to stop seeing this as an ending and start seeing it as a new chapter. Despite her tears, Sophie grinned. That's all I'm asking for. Not with the assurance of fairy tales, but with the unadulterated bravery of two people discovering unconditional love. They hugged each other in silence. But as Sophie sat on the edge of the hotel bed in Los Angeles, she hardly noticed the monotonous hum of the traffic below. Beside her, her bag was half-packed and open, its contents leaking out like the feelings she had been trying to keep within for weeks. Rob was out once more. At the gym, most likely, or perhaps simply taking his dog on a walk. This time, he simply left with a clipped back later, without specifying where he was going. The space between them was already widening, and that had turned into a pattern. Sophie thought their life would be full of adventure, passion, and sunshine when she left London to be with Rob. He gazed at her as if she were the only one in the room, and she had fell for his charisma and sense of humor. However, months into her visit, Sophie discovered a side of Rob that she had not anticipated. He was erratic, evasive, and occasionally contemptuous of her emotions. Worse, there were rumors. Whispers about ladies he may still be texting, and about his history. She discovered messages on his iPad a week ago. Inappropriate, flirtatious, and unquestionably current. Rob had lost his temper when she challenged him. "Why are you prying into my belongings?" His voice rose as he asked. She had answered, her accent trembling with pain. "Why are you keeping things from me?" It was 2 days before they spoke. Sophie pondered now, as she sat in the hotel room in solitude, if this was the man she wanted to marry. She had been cautioned by her mother. Lily, her best friend, had pleaded with her to use caution. Soft, long-distance love is difficult. And there are a lot of warning signs about this individual. Sophie, however, had trusted the fairy tale. She longed to be the exception rather than the rule. She wanted to demonstrate that relocating across the seas wasn't an error, and that love could overcome any obstacles. Her cell rang. A note from Rob. "When I get back, can we talk?" Rob arrived 3 hours later carrying a grocery bag and her favorite flower, a little arrangement of daisies. Sophie didn't grin. Her eyes were weary when she looked up. "I came here for love, not confusion," she said, starting with Rob. He sat opposite her and put the flowers on the table. "I am aware of my mistakes. I become defensive. However, Sophie, you are important to me. I also struggle with trust." "That's not a justification," she said. "I sacrifice myself for you." Hours passed while they conversed, regarding their dreams, baggage, and concerns. This time, Rob truly apologized. Sophie did not, however, express forgiveness for him. Later that night, Sophie gazed at the ceiling while Rob slept next to her. She questioned whether love was sufficient. She doubted that she could ever trust him again. She still loved him in her heart. However, trust is difficult to rebuild after it has been damaged. She would have to choose between booking a flight back and staying to battle for a maybe fictitious love tomorrow. Greetings, dear viewers, greetings from my channel. I'm Amelia. I hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video.